In today's video, we are going to be looking at the top 10 psychology effects that you don't know about. Some of these effects you may have experienced in your life and not have even known about them. By knowing these effects, you can use them to your advantage and improve your interactions in your day-to-day life. Let's get started on our list. At number 10 is the Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon. Ever pay attention to something or learn something new and then you start seeing it everywhere? The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon is a psychological phenomenon where after learning about something new or becoming aware of a particular concept, you start noticing it everywhere. It gives the impression that the thing you just learned about has suddenly become more common or prevalent. For example, you could have bought a new pair of Nike shoes and then gone out and all of a sudden you notice people wearing more Nike shoes. Our brains love patterns, and this phenomenon is a testament to just how powerful our pattern-seeking minds are. Coming in at number 9 is the Dunning-Kruger Effect. Ever notice how dumb people tend to think they're smart and smart people tend to think they're not? It turns out that there is a reason for that. The Dunning-Kruger Effect shows that people with low ability at a task often overestimate their ability, whilst people with high ability at a task tend to underestimate theirs. In simpler terms, those who don't know much about something tend to think they know a lot more than they actually do, and people who know a lot about something tend to think they don't know much at all. Maybe your friend thinks he's good at stand-up comedy and goes to a show and no one laughs at his jokes, whereas your other friend thinks he isn't very good and has everyone laughing. People can sometimes misjudge their abilities, and this effect shows it. At number 8 is the Bystander Effect. The bystander effect occurs when there is an emergency situation, and because of this effect, individuals are less likely to offer help to a victim when other people are present. This effect is linked to social influence, and in simpler terms, if someone is in need of help in public, the more bystanders there are, the less likely any one of them is to step forward and take action. An example of this effect that took place was the Kitty Genovese case, where the bystander effect gained widespread attention after Kitty Genovese was stabbed and killed in a residential area in 1964. Despite being attacked in a residential area, the presence of numerous witnesses did not lead to immediate intervention. 2 weeks after the murder, the New York Times published an article claiming that 38 witnesses saw or heard the attack, and that none of them called the police or came to her aid. This effect makes you realize that even if there is a lot of people around in a dangerous situation, you are not necessarily safe. Coming in at number 7 is the Primacy Effect. Have you ever learned something that is wrong and then upon trying to correct it, you stick with doing it wrong? The primacy effect influences how we perceive and remember information. It gives us a tendency to remember the first information encountered, and discount further information trying to override it, whether it's a person, experience, or set of data. This effect can change our perception of something for good even though it may change. For example, say you went on holiday and it was an unpleasant experience, the food was bad, the hotel was unattractive, and the people were rude. You told all your friends that it was a bad holiday, and then one day you end up going again and it was the best holiday of your life. You are more likely to remember the first bad experience and use that when describing it to someone else. It just goes to show, first impressions are everything. At number 6 is the halo effect. Ever been attracted to someone and just can't find anything wrong about them even though other people are pointing things out? This effect would explain that. The halo effect is a cognitive bias where our overall impression of a person influences how we perceive their specific traits or abilities. In other words, if we view someone positively in one aspect, we tend to assume they excel in other areas as well. This effect can be a gift and a curse, but it is important that we understand it so that we don't fall victim to its repercussions. For example, you've just started dating a new girl, she ticks every box you have. She has a perfect face, perfect body, and amazing personality. She tells you about herself and you believe everything you hear. You wonder if there's anything she doesn't have, but you just can't find it. Your friend meets her, and after a while of talking he pulls you aside and tells you that he's met her before and everything she told you was a lie, and you start to realize that you were just tricked because you thought she was perfect. You won't let that happen to you again. Coming in at number 5 is the social loafing effect. Remember that time when you were working in a large group in school, yet still no work got done? Social loafing explains the tendency of individuals to exert less effort when working as part of a group compared to when working alone. In other words, it's the idea that people may slack off or reduce their contributions in a group setting as they believe the others will do the work for them. I'm sure you've been in that situation. You had a group project to hand in and the work wasn't completed because everyone thought someone else was doing it. Well, now you have the explanation as to why that happened, and you can use this psychological effect to get more work done when in a group by reminding them that you need to work together to accomplish the collective goal. Leading on from this effect is our number 4, the Deindividuation Effect. Ever feel like another person when you're part of a group? There is actually a reason for that. Deindividuation happens when individuals lose their sense of individual identity and personal responsibility when part of a large group or crowd. In simpler terms, it's the phenomenon where people may act in ways they wouldn't as individuals due to the anonymity and reduced accountability of being in a group. This effect explains why you may act more childish or playful in a group, as you feel safer to go to the extremes of behavior when your friends are there to protect you. This phenomenon can make you act out of character and get you in trouble, so make sure you reel yourself back in if you start to notice yourself de-individualizing. We are now at the top 3. Make sure to like and subscribe if you are enjoying the video so we can bring you more psychology and philosophy content to expand your mind and help you find your potential. Making its way into number 3 is the Chameleon Effect. Do you ever notice yourself mimicking other people's behaviors to try and fit into a situation you are unfamiliar with? The Chameleon Effect is a social psychology concept that describes the unconscious tendency of individuals to mimic the nonverbal behaviors of those around them. In essence, it's the subtle art of unintentional imitation that occurs during social interactions. This effect has its pros and cons though. On the upside, it can encourage social connection, empathy, and rapport building with other individuals. However, it can also lead to conformity and potential loss of individual identity, as other people may think you are copying them and get upset by this. An example of this is if you are in an unfamiliar situation such as a fancy dinner, and you notice people sticking their pinky up when they are drinking, you are likely to unconsciously mimic this behavior and as a result you have fell victim to the Chameleon Effect. Just make sure you don't change color. Jumping in at number 2, we have the Rosy Retrospection Effect. Try to think of a fun memory you have. I'm sure you have a good one in mind, but what if I told you may be misremembering it? The Rosy Retrospection Effect is a cognitive bias that refers to the tendency of individuals to remember past events more positively than they actually experienced them. In simpler terms, it's the phenomenon where our memories of the past are tinted with a rosy, nostalgic glow. It's always nice to look back and remember all the fun times you've had, but I'm sure if you think about it at the time you were in your memory you weren't having as much fun as you remember having. For instance, if you try to remember when you were in school, I'm sure you would instantly go to all the fun times you had with your classmates, ignoring most of the bad encounters you had at your time there. While this effect enhances the pleasure we derive from reminiscing, it can also lead to an unrealistic idealization of the past. Use the knowledge of this effect to fine-tune your memory. Finally, topping this list at number 1 is the self-serving bias effect. Ever notice how people tend to celebrate their successes and blame their losses on other things? This effect explains just that. The self-serving bias explains that individuals attribute positive events and successes to their own character, while attributing negative events and failures to external factors. In simpler terms, it's the tendency to take credit for successes but attribute failures to external circumstances. This effect can help displace emotions of failure, however it is important to learn from your losses and grow from them, so it is essential that you identify when something is your fault and try to improve on the cause of it. An example of this effect is when you win a boxing match, you may celebrate your hard work and effort you have put into training. However, if you were to lose, you may blame your coach or your gloves or a completely irrelevant external reason to prevent yourself taking the blame for your actions. It is important we realize when we are falling into the self-serving bias and use it to grow. The sky's the limit when you learn from your failures and never give up. Thank you for watching this video on the top 10 psychological effects you don't know about. Please like and subscribe for more psychology and philosophy content, and we'll see you in the next video.